of the world, top of the, pop the lid off, oh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Wonder Women podcast, the main podcast for the business magazine for women.com. In our podcast, just like in our magazine, we're focused on promoting women's voices in business, technology, STEM, politics, sports, arts, and culture. My name is Monica Antohi. I'm the founder of the business magazine for women.com and the host of today's podcast. Before we get you to today's conversation and before I introduce you to our awesome guest, the most awesome and wonderful woman of today, I'd like to take a moment and take care of some administrative things. As you know, the podcast is now available on YouTube as a video and SoundCloud and iTunes as an audio podcast. That's how you found us. If you like what you're seeing today and what you're hearing, we would love for you to become our Patreon supporter. Basically, for the price of a coffee cup or more, you'll get cool perks like getting your name mentioned in the next podcast recording, or a handwritten card from us, or you'll get the current issue of our most awesome, the Business Magazine for Women, delivered directly into your inbox. Basically, your support will give us the resources we need to continue bringing you these interviews with these amazing women, the Wonder Women of every industry. To become a Patreon supporter, you can find us at Patreon, spelled patreon.com/Wonder Women Podcast. That's patreon.com/Wonder Women Podcast. The music for our podcast is graciously provided by our most awesome Wonder Woman, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. To get your free download, go to cbemusic.com. That is cbemusic.com. Now, let's get you to today's conversation. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Business Magazine for Women.com podcast. Our podcast is focused on promoting women's voices in business, technology, STEM, politics, sports, arts, and culture. In today's podcast, we're actually going to be discussing money, a lot of money, venture capital, and the cannabis industry. It's a confluence of women in finance and women in cannabis. As you're going to be seeing in our next issue, you're going to be seeing that a very important matter of women in finance and retirement and all that stuff, and also how important the cannabis industry is right now for women, and actually for the entire country, not just for women, but specifically for women, as a tremendous career and financial opportunity. So to talk about all this stuff, I'm actually invited with us today Ms. Jennifer Sanders. She's a Harvard Business School graduate. She's been in finance her entire professional career, and she seems to have gotten into venture capital investing with a twist. She's actually investing in cannabis. So let's start getting to know her a little bit. So hello, Jennifer, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Absolutely. So let's see who is Jennifer Sanders. So let's talk a little bit about the background and why you said the perfect person to talk to about finance and cannabis at the same time. So who is Jennifer Sanders?
Sure. I think it's evolved over the last 4 years. I feel like my past life was predominantly in the investment world. I was always one of those kids, in high school, rebalancing my family's 401k. I was doing taxes for fun.
Wow.
Got my first start in the financial services industry at age 20 with Edward Jones, one of the youngest financial advisors in that company's history. Learned a lot. Decided that through my experience being a financial advisor, I really loved compliance. I really liked understanding all the rules, the sets of all the rules, and how they applied to different businesses to protect both businesses and individuals. I have a deep love for the capital markets. I have a deep love for private equity. I just did the normal, financial lifestyle. I was a risk manager for institutional investment firms and international banks. Finally proceeded my career into becoming a consultant to do international banking consulting and compliance, regulatory risk management, all the boring stuff nobody really likes to do. That's the things I really like to do. And
like taxes.
Upon a very devastating family event, I actually did home hospice with my mother 5 years ago in her late stage of cancer. And before then, I wouldn't even interact with friends who used cannabis. I believed all the stigmas. I believed it was lazy, and I had securities licenses and certain clearances, and I just never wanted it to be anywhere near my life. So that was a very hard shift for me to see, someone who I love dearly, in the late stages of their life. A very good friend of mine and co-founder of my firm suggested, who are also into Harvard Medical School, suggested to use medical grade hash oil towards the end of her life, and I was so against it. You would not believe. I didn't even want it in the house. I was doing home hospice with her, and I ended up finally trusting her. I went to high school with this woman, a dear, dear friend of mine, and I saw how it really transformed my mother's pain and appetite. And I think you hear these stories all the time. They're actually becoming so cliche, but it's so deeply personal to me that I realized very quickly that I had a big duty to speak to the other people like me that were in that professional realm to say that this is real, and this is not just people using medical cannabis for glaucoma and of these other things just to use cannabis recreationally. And so based with that, I started our private equity firm, CNSEquityPartners. Founded a couple companies, did a couple startups myself from scratch. That is a painful, awesome, wonderful learning experience, and then began acquiring companies.
I can't wait to talk about those.
Yeah, those ones are the fun ones. Now, 3 years in, they're the fun ones.
Now they are. But before you started, before you got into cannabis, before the tragic events with, in your family, and that's got to be devastating, and you're not the only one going through that, and finally accepting that cannabis is like, well, yeah, that freaking helps. So, but like before all of that happened, you're in finance. What got you into finance? Like, how did you decide to go into finance? There's not that many women in finance. The numbers are so incredibly small that they're terrifying. And then you became, you got into venture capital, so the numbers are even lower in venture capital. So the numbers go from like 16-something in the financial market to 9-something, if less than that. So, you go into smaller, industries that have smaller numbers of women at, significant levels of leadership. So what drove you into finance? And let's talk there. What?
I think it was always just in me. I think it came naturally. I just have a passion for it. I think it's really fantastic learning how to build and protect wealth. I think tax strategy is amazing. I used to make fun of some of my friends who are in the legal field. Is just like, I could sit there for hours just talking to estate planning attorneys. I just love the concept of, working hard, building wealth, and how to protect it and make it, work for multi-generations. I don't know. It's always been something that I was interested in, and I never once thought, oh, I'm one of the few women, or this is a very gender-specific role. I'm very, very narrow-minded when I think of it. I don't really believe in competition. I have kind of a different, Buddhism philosophy, and so I just feel like it was very natural for me. I can't say that I did any huge accomplishment or anything that led me to this path. It was just very natural.
Awesome. The reason why women in finance is so important is because we get to retirement with half the money that men do. And then we live longer than men do. Mm-hmm. So how do we, change the perspective that women have, a lot of women have, that, okay, I'm going to just save money. Investing is not quite for me because I'm not comfortable in that field. I don't know much about it. I don't even know what to invest in. There's a lot of those reasons that come up, right, when it comes to why women don't invest. Even though that's changing recently because of amazing funds like, women getting more involved in angel investing, and so they're a little bit more comfortable with that. So but where do you stand on that? What do you think?
I think everyone should have a very basic level of financial proficiency. I think it should be a basic skill so that people understand A, how to manage their money, and B, how to save and the best ways to save prudently. I always get into a little bit of an argument with how to invest because I don't necessarily believe in, the 401k structures and things like that for everyone. I think it's a great thing for some people. I'm very fee adverse. Our firm has no management fees, which is really very radical in our industry. It's very radical. They're like, well, how do you do that? Or like, well,
get it? How do you make your money? Right.
Yeah. Well, you make smart investments and you save it and you use it strategically and you manage your costs. Duh. Like how you would do your normal budget at home, right?
Yeah. Duh. Pretty much.
But I think that I am really liking seeing, there's a company I've been tracking for a while called Elvest, great platform for women investors, very powerful women coming into the investment space. I think that, Melinda Gates is also really pushing towards women being more proficient in finances and really powering up with companies like Thrive and things like that. There's so many tremendous women. It's kind of like, there's so many now, and it's the norm, and I think that's exciting. Though I guess in some pockets of the world, it is still very radical, and I think women generally are sometimes more emotionally suited for investing. Sometimes they're slightly more intuitive. They get a better read on the people. That works way more in private equity, where you're dealing with interactive, companies and people and management firms, rather than, just, stock, blue chip investing, things like that. So
the robo-investing part, there's no emotion there. And it works for a lot of women, but
it's only diversification.
It basically is what it is, but there's no connection to what you're investing in, right? Correct?
Right.
So like you were saying, there's a bit more emotion involved with women investing, and if that's the case, then maybe we can offer them that, like a way to connect to what they're investing in, versus just completely being detached. Okay, here's my money. I'm putting my money into this account with so-and-so, robo investing company, and we're just going to let it do its thing. That's been the trend. That's been what people have been doing for very many years. But I'm seeing it changing. I'm seeing it when, women saying, I'm like, I really want to know what I'm investing in. It matters to me. It matters, it matters that I'm investing in cannabis. It matters that I'm investing in environmentally, safe product. It matters that, that renewables. So having that is super important. So have you seen any of that in, you're investing?
I'm starting to see that. I think we were one of the first virtue-based investment firms, private equity firms, that really had that virtue philosophy. The Rockefeller Foundation has done a phenomenal job with their impact investing platform. That's a very ultra-high net worth family office style investment platform. You really can't get in that game without $20, $30+ million. Right. That doesn't really help, mainstream America. And I think what's been beautiful about cannabis is it's really gotten people emotionally connected to something. And what you see in this space is a lot of people really creating these virtue-based companies that are considering, corporate responsibility, sustainability, community efforts. How can we make an impact both, locally and internationally? And I think that because the margins are so tremendous in this space, it allows you the latitude to run a business the way that you really want to run a business, without the typical constraints of, cash flow and margins, and always focusing on the bottom line. Say restaurants and service industries that have very, very small margins. It's a very big challenge for them to say, I want to make a fully recyclable plant-based plastic cup. That's a big change from just a styrofoam cup. And these are things that really impact the bottom line to both their investors, shareholders, and management. I'm seeing a lot of companies going towards this corporate sustainability aspect, but not paying their staff very well. Is that really a win-win for everyone involved?
Obviously, no.
I'm not sure. And I guess to touch on your point, I'm seeing it happen more and more, which I'm so happy to see, but it is still very rare.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad, but at least we're kind of going in the right direction. Some of the companies are at least going in the right direction. And I think that the more women come into this environment, into the investing world, they're going to demand a certain amount of change, because we are voting with our money. It's that kind of world. So the more we invest in things that matter to us specifically, the more we make those things happen quicker. So talking about that.
Yeah.
So so okay, so I understand the family situation with your mom, and learning about the benefits of marijuana, of cannabis medicinally. But that shouldn't have been all of it, right? Like, why? I mean, have you, like, how did you go into investing in it? Because you could say, okay, this is fantastic, but not a lot of people go into, oh, I really like what this is doing, health-wise.
Personal savings, corporate mission. My friend and I, that same friend who went to Harvard Med, got in a car. We were living in San Francisco Bay Area at the time, and said, we're going to go find people who grow cannabis or sell cannabis. So we got in my car and we drove up through Humboldt area into Southern Oregon, up through Seattle, back down through Colorado, into Phoenix, through Las Vegas, around through California, and we just started talking to everybody that would talk to us. I wanted to deeply understand the industry. I'm one of those people who really needs to understand not only the nuts and bolts, but also all the different facets within that. I want to understand where's the opportunity and how all the components work. And it took literally 2 years of immersion into the space. It was really challenging, in the small town that we ended up opening our first dispensary in, which is the flagship, the Green Heart. No one would even rent a home to me. I lived in the attic of a dispensary with no heat, no cool, no restroom. I showered at my employees' homes and did my laundry as well, a couple times a week. That was my first 8 months in the cannabis industry.
Because you started a dispensary?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What state was it in?
Completely, and it's called the Green Heart. It's the nation's first completely cashless dispensary, so we take only credit and debit card, but we're a holistic health store, so we believe that hemp, and I personally believe hemp and cannabis is a component of alternative medicine. I think it's one of many medicinal herbs. I don't think it's right for everybody, and I think new people starting it should be very cautious and start with very low dose or CBD products to ease into it. I don't believe anything should be a crutch. I don't believe people should be using cannabis every single day for very long periods of time. And so that was kind of another radical concept, in the cannabis space, 3 years ago and still now. So that has been one of our most successful investments, and that's something I started from scratch, with my bare hands. My father helped do the woodwork.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So talk about putting yourself fully into it. That's what I did, and I had amazing people around me that taught me a lot of good things and taught me a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons that you learned? Obviously, going into a community that's not really well receptive to what, to the company, first of all, to the product, second of all, and to you, as the owner. How do you go into that company, into that community, and make it work, and grow the company and make it thrive, and hire people, because you've had to hire people. I'm sure that was a challenge in a city that wouldn't even rent a house to you.
So, and I'm a homeowner. I'm a professional executive homeowner.
Long list of
you would want in someone renting a home from you. I qualified. So, and that's rare in this industry. There are a lot of people who have gone through some interesting times. So, I think the overarching concept here is that cannabis is a very, very high-risk, volatile investment, whether it's your own money that you're managing, pools of money, etc. The quick answer to the question is, I think the one thing I learned was every single thing you learn from business school does not apply. Nothing actually applies. So
it's an industry that it's a business, but it's a different kind of business. Is it because it's not federally, regulated, approved, or because it's not legal, and because you can lose your money every time that somebody just decides to come in and take over your company? And federally, is that one of the reasons?
I think that's a symptom of the reason. The reason is regulatory risk. And so what we found, and what I have found over the last 3 years, is even a very small rule change, like when we were in Oregon, they changed the packaging rules 4 times in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
In traditional business, what you want to do is you want to design packaging, find a printer that prints as much as you can afford, long runs of packaging to make it as affordable as possible.
Correct. Yeah.
I threw $82,000 worth of packaging away year 1.
Wow.
They changed the law on the dosing of the edibles and things like that. I had produced 2 edibles lines, created a concentrate line. At one point in time, they disallowed concentrates entirely in the state after I had already invested $40,000, $50,000 into a line.
Wow.
And then when they allowed them, I produced them for 2 months, and then they changed again the dose that was allowed. We were over that dose limit. So I had to throw away almost $200,000 of product. And what happens, and these are the real decisions in our space, is do I operate on the gray market and sell these things out the back door? Because I could have sold it for $500,000 out the back door. Mm-hmm. Or do I stick to my guns and say I'm building what I believe is a national franchise and my reputation is more important? And that's the decision I made. And these are very hard decisions. In the beginning, it was my own money. Now we have investors. I act the same way. But these are really, really, really hard decisions when it's real money. And
yeah, especially with your money.
There was about 282 rule changes in the last 2 years in the state of Oregon, and even the first location that we had chosen, that we were paying $15,000 a month in McMinnville, Oregon for a lease. 2 of the 3 business that we were running out of that business had like production kitchen and a wholesale activity. They changed the zoning so that property wasn't compatible anymore for us to do that. And when we first got our dispensary license, the whole city almost completely eradicated cannabis sales entirely. On 2 days before Christmas, we had this crazy city council meeting that lasted until 11:30 p.m., where the mayor finally overrode the entire meeting and said, no, we're keeping cannabis. And this is volatile. This is blood, sweat, tears, money. This is people's lives and livelihoods on the line.
You're building an industry with every battle.
This is not a single story. There are many stories like this. So when I say it doesn't run like normal business and all the things that you learn, it's all about really strong relationships and loyalty, which you don't get taught in business school, right? And it's about making very, very short-term, wise, low-risk decisions. It's about not losing money in the cannabis space today. People that are earning money are the ones not losing money, because as much as you see a lot of this, that, and the other thing going on and people making a lot of revenue, there's not a lot of after-tax profit. There are not a lot of people that are truly profitable in this space, forgetting all the noise that you hear online. Yeah. There's very few.
And it's because of the regulation. It's because of whatever state you're in or whatever city you're in. Everybody kind of decides what's going on in that city. So like the mayor decides what's going on, the governor decides what's going on, and it's all about, who changes. So where are the rules? Why are there so many changes? Why did Oregon change its ruling 4 times in a year for packaging? Did it change it just for the cannabis industry?
Yes, just for the cannabis industry. The answer is the states and cities, when they're getting into the space, like they're saying, okay, we're going to have medical cannabis, we're going to have a recreational program. They don't really know all the ins and outs and how this plant works. And it's a constant evolution. They're trying to get better and better and better each time. And every time they changed a rule, it was to make it a safer environment for the consumer.
Okay.
And so when you're talking about lab testing changing to make it more difficult for, pesticides and things that you don't want in your cannabis, it's always for a good reason. Just the lead time for the businesses to change is very, very challenging to react to. I think a state that's done a very, very good job is actually the state of Nevada. They have a very thoughtfully crafted program. It's been very, very stable. Businesses are really starting to flourish since recreational legalization. I think Maryland is really looking at them strongly. I think there's a couple other states that are taking it very, very seriously. Rhode Island is a great example of starting really easy, market testing it out, and trying to create an environment where their businesses can be successful, but their medical patients also have access to the plant on a stable, affordable basis. So that's really the goal.
And you can see that there's different situations for each state. It's got its own little legal situation, its own particular, you know, they have more, you know, flower users or more, you know, whatever. So it changes, depends on the state. You know, in Florida, there's a lot of older, you know, like 50 plus that are using, you know, medical marijuana, which is not, which is kind of odd, but you know, if you think about demographics in that state, it kind of makes sense. So every state is unique in its way of doing things and how they're regulating and what they're regulating and all that stuff. But it'd be nice to have a little bit more cohesion when it comes to the rules across the state, so it can actually be on the same. So basically, when you have a dispensary in Oregon and another one in Nevada, you don't have to do 2 types of packaging. You don't have to do 2 types of testing. It'd be a lot easier to just have like a standardized across the board, but makes it really difficult without the federal government's involvement in supporting the whole industry, let alone deregulating it, descheduling it from this horrible Schedule 1 that it is right now. So. Yeah. That being said,
I mean, I think the answer is always diversification. You know, if I hadn't had my hand in 3 or 4 other businesses, I have, a couple of non-cannabis businesses.
Right.
Our portfolio is structured around holistic health companies, not all of them being cannabis, and that was very purposeful. So, that's a way to look at it. But how does a normal investor, saying, just
exactly.
a normal person, get involved in all of these things? It's very hard to find opportunities that are affordable to get in without hyper-concentrating your risk.
Okay, so 2 things on that. Well, one of them, first question would be, the cannabis industry seems to be super massive. The amount of money that can be made in the industry, $20 billion next year, something like that. It's out there. And then the second part is, we're talking about all these risks and all that stuff, but it's also still a very good investment opportunity. Yes, there's still a bunch of risks and all that stuff. But so can we touch on both of those?
For people who can stomach the risk, of course, they can understand that. I think everyone needs to go into it saying, I could lose all the investment capital that I'm putting into this. There could also be some legal and other implications. Most people don't talk about those aspects. They just talk about, oh, here's our projections, which I don't believe is extremely ethical. But I do think there are some great opportunities. I think that looking at companies that have done a good job over the last 3 years to diversify, I personally am not really looking at startups right now. I think there's a lot of great companies who've been through the pain, been through the storm, that have weathered it and learned a lot of great lessons that are ready for growth capital. I think growth capital is the place that I'm most interested in currently. I'm launching another fund that's going to be public-facing called Aura Ventures, and it's basically trying to have a small touch of cannabis in there, but mostly holistic health portfolio. So kind of micro-sizing my portfolio a little bit and making it accessible for investors.
Smaller investments? Smaller investors?
Smaller investments. Yeah, we're looking at a $10,000 minimum.
Okay. So
which is really affordable in the space, actually.
Yeah, and a lot of women would, totally jump at the opportunity to do that. Plus, it's covered because you guys are investing there kind of protected legally. Am I wrong?
Correct. Yeah, it creates a buffer, a separation of liability. They're always obviously going to be a passive investor. There's been no legal precedent that passive investors have ever been implicated legally for anything that has happened to a cannabis-related company, aside from potentially losing their investment, of course.
Absolutely.
But I think that I'm trying to deliver exactly what I'm trying to create for myself, which is a very diversified portfolio that has an aspect to it that tilts towards that cannabis, so you can capture some of that growth and potential. But to be honest, there's some companies that are not in cannabis that are essential oil companies or yoga studio franchises that are making way more money than cannabis, and they don't have the tax implications. So if you're looking at real return with virtue-based strategies, those are really attractive companies to me right now too. So, there are plants like ashwagandha that have a higher margin in certain states that sell than cannabis without the Section 280E. Yeah, so, I think what I tell people is don't come to the cannabis industry because you think it's sexy and cool. If you're looking for a real return, let's make sure we come at it with a very balanced framework. We look at it both emotionally but practically, and we say, what are you really trying to accomplish? Are you trying to accomplish wellness across the nation? Are you trying to provide people solutions to alternative medicine? Are you trying to make these things affordable for people so there's a real reason for them to stop getting free opiates from the government?
Right.
And go to something like cannabis or herbal teas or CBD, something to that effect. Is what's your goal here? Because sometimes your goal doesn't work with certain cannabis companies that are more recreationally focused. It really just depends. It's just matching your intentions with your investment to keep that whole process very, very pure. And that's when I think it's a very powerful investment, is when what you want is going towards what you need to do in a prudent way that's diversified. That's the win-win-win for me. That hopefully impacts the local and global environment.
Right. So your suggestion is basically suggestion is yes, invest in cannabis, but also think about other ways of making money, not necessarily just with just put all your money on in one fund, because the risk is pretty substantial. So add another thing to your portfolio. Don't just go with, especially if you're interested in health and alternative medicine and all that stuff. So, which, by the way, yes, 100% alternative medicine, because, the opiate epidemic in the country, and the fact that there's so many people on high blood pressure medicine that shouldn't be on that could, there's so many other ways that you can mediate everything instead of putting yourself, more at risk because you're not really taking responsibility of what you're doing. So, okay, I'm going to stop preaching. And
well, we're on the same token, and then you've got, the publicly traded market with cannabis companies that are trading 40 times valuation. That's not a value. That's not a value for an investor. The benefit there, you get audited financials and things like that, but going in, you're getting a very small piece of the pie, and so is that an element of possible diversification? Sure, but I don't necessarily see value in the public markets, and I don't personally see value at this moment in startups.
Okay. All right, so, but we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit. Faith Popcorn, she's talking at South by Southwest. She said something like women should get involved basically in this industry because this is massively, massive growth industry, first of all, and we shouldn't be left behind like we've been left behind in every other industry, right? So, or be denied the financial benefits of this, $20 billion next year, and God knows how much Canada is making, that we're missing out on. So the point is, what are some not industries, like aspects of the industry that you think would benefit from more women, from women's involvement? Getting more women involved in the industry. It doesn't matter, which state they're in, but more involvement.
When I consider women involvement, I physically mean their bodies. I think that this, as a professional space, has a lot of potential. And so, looking at it from the investor perspective, I'll pause right now and just talk about the professional opportunities. There is no judgment. I don't see very much discrimination whatsoever for women, nationalities, backgrounds, religious standpoints. This is a very wide open industry, and it's very Darwinistic at the moment. It's whoever can get ahead and make prudent and wise decisions and run a business ethically and have a little bit of luck, you hope, is going to be able to play in this field. I don't necessarily feel like certain industries like the investment industry or the technology industry are closed off to women currently. I think that that's kind of an old mindset. I think we're thinking about late 90s. This is a completely different time, and keeping women telling the story repeatedly that we're not able to be in these industries is not true. It's just not true. So just the first thing is get over that. Get over yourself. Get over the story, and go get what you want. if what you want is to come into a space that's alternative medicine, there's a lot of ways to play. But if you really want to make impact, there's a lot of opportunities. I think cannabis industry is the highest growth job opportunity market that we've seen. I saw something posted by Forbes maybe 2 weeks ago. So I think just overarching is women, go do what you want to do and go do it, and stop telling yourself you can't, because there's, I think, perfect examples in every industry that women can be successful. And then from the investment side is, nobody cares if you're a man or a woman, if you're purple or green. They don't care what your money is. They want your money if they're raising capital. So if you've got prudent money to put into this space, you have just as much of an opportunity as anybody else with a dollar in their hand. So it's a very fair playing field. But I think actually the world market is becoming much more of a fair playing field in general, not just our space.
That's a very optimistic view. Although
I work with mostly men, and I work with a lot of men, and I work with men who really, really respect women. And I don't see that as, we have these big things happening where, the standing up for, sexual predators and things like that recently, but I haven't really encountered that very much in my life personally, and I've been through some of the most male-dominated fields and in higher executive status and things to that effect, and so it's how you carry yourself and what you demand and how you demand to be treated.
Yeah,
have a backbone.
There's a lot of that, but the youth movement is not necessarily just about that, but it's also about the fact that sometimes they don't have. A lot of these cases have been women that have been caught completely by surprise by.
I understand. No, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and I'm saying that it's not a terrible problem, but I'm saying that going in with that fear mentality is not going to be beneficial. Just go try to get as much as you can with your talents and be a great business person regardless, and you will find an opportunity for success.
Absolutely, and the cannabis industry is actually supports a lot more women than in any other industry in the country, and it's got a lot more women, about 10% more women than at the C level than any other industry. So that kind of speaks volumes to me, just looking at those numbers, and so that's one of the reasons why we're talking about women in cannabis, is because of those numbers. How can you ignore those numbers? And when you see like Cassandra Farrington, and she's making bank with, it's a journal, it's a, but they know everything that's happening in the industry, right? It's spectacular, right? And you venture capital fund that's focused on, alternative medicine with cannabis involvement. So there's a lot of strong, powerful women in the industry making bank, basically. So yeah, it's appealing. It's appealing to women in business, and I think that a lot more women should be involved. There's from where I'm sitting, from everything that I've seen at the conference and at the MJ BizCon, and talking to women in the industry, it's all about whatever you're best at. You can do that in the cannabis industry, because they're probably not going to have somebody as good as you, or if they do, well, there's two of you, So there's a lot of growth opportunity on a new industry. Basically, you can come in kind of new, into a new industry. It's a basically five-year-old industry and just take all your skills from the regular industries and just kind of take them to to the cannabis industry, because they will like it. It's needed right now. So what are some of the fields that you think are lacking right now? Is it tech that's lacking? Or is it marketing that's lacking? What's lacking? Is it legal? Where do you think more people are needed in the industry?
Yeah, I actually see companies starting to grow into mature level mid-growth companies, and so there's a lot of HR roles that are creeping up. In-house marketing, digital marketing, medium tier and high level management, a lot of financial CFOs, I think, are the next wave. So I think when I look at, say, LinkedIn or what I'm seeing around, it's usually people who work in the facilities, whether it's cultivation facilities, processing facilities, things like that. I think as we know that these companies are going to continue to mature, we're going to look for, in-house accounting, in-house bookkeeping, CFOs, things of that nature. It's rare that companies will grow to the size where they will have their own general counsel. Typically, that's an outsourced function. But the CFO thing is, if you look at companies as they're starting to grow, that's one of the last places that gets filled. They usually use an outsourced bookkeeper or accounting firm for a period of time. So I think that's a big opportunity for people, young women specifically that are taking accounting degrees, things like that. But I'm just going to say, overarching, this is, I think, one of the best places for women entrepreneurs to come out and start something that they want to do.
Okay.
I see that when you're saying there's so many leaders in cannabis, a lot of these women started their own company. They didn't get hired up. They didn't get, brought over from different industries. They started their company. They weathered the storm, and they got to where they are. And I think Sandra's a perfect example. I'm an example of that. And in fact, I wasn't a C-level position until this year. I kept a director role for the first 3 years. I was director of strategy and risk management. And I was like, well, gosh, there's got to be somebody better than me to run this company, right? There has to be.
Apparently not.
I haven't found him yet. I'm looking. If there's somebody, please come run this company. Come ride this roller coaster. But finally, one of my partners said, Jennifer, you need to be the CEO. And I was like, I don't want to do that job.
But you're the founder.
I do it every day. So it's like, So my example is, don't be afraid of your own success. Don't be afraid of being that C-level executive or running that company. Don't be afraid of yourself. I was in my own way,
Yay. Well, yeah.
Remember, the first 3 years, it was all my own capital.
Right, and it's your company.
And I was a director.
Yeah. You're the founder,
I know.
It's your idea. It's your concept.
We don't believe, that, we should have that title.
Oh,
so I'm here to spell. This year is like, get out of your way. Go do it.
That's awesome to hear. Because you would think that at this point you wouldn't have run into that. You wouldn't have run into, I don't trust myself to do this. I think somebody else is going to be better at this than I am.
Yeah.
But that's, your resume alone, it's you can do this just sleeping, basically. You can call it in, phone it in, basically.
Yeah.
So to hear that even though you have so much success, in a background behind you, there's still doubt, and it's I'm hearing that a lot. That's what we deal with, and we deal with that. So so I'm glad that they pushed you. I'm glad that because you need that. So talking about that, actually, have you had a mentor or somebody that's helped you, focus and guide, and you've advanced and you pushed through, and specifically, somebody that stands out for you?
I've had a lot of smaller mentors helping me learn the cannabis industry. So that's one first facet. There's so much to learn. This plant is so complex. This industry is complex upon that complexity. I thought regulatory risk management, international compliance was the most complex place you could go with rules and regulations. This trumps it completely. But to answer the quick mentor question, I think one of the best decisions I made a couple years ago was to hire the CEO for the Green Heart, the company I mentioned earlier.
Right.
His name's Chris Martin. He spoke recently at MJ Biz as well. He had his own panel. He has his own thing, He's that cool. Yeah. And, he's older and wiser and has been through it, and, just gives me just that reality check, because I'm very much a person who sees the best and the potential in a lot of things. Even though I have a very strong risk management aspect side to me, I really see the potential in people, and he's a very practical, no, this is what they're good at, this is what they're not good at.
Right.
People management is not my skill. I am much better in portfolio management. He's a phenomenal people manager. And so I think another...
It kind of helps with the Green Heart. He kind of needs that.
When I find amazing people, I have them run our companies.
Awesome.
So I just brought over somebody from a huge executive at William Morris Endeavor, which is the largest entertainment holding company, to come run our marketing events branding company called Aura. His name is Scott Hanley. He's been a mentor of mine for the last 7 years, and just telling you this is how the world works with the big boys. And just giving me the keep pushing the potential of seeing is that, stop thinking so small. And that's really hard for me to learn all these things, because again, I was the rules person. I wasn't the person making these very, very important decisions. I've had to really learn this. And again, this cannot be taught in business school. I don't care where. It could be Harvard, it could be Yale, it could be anywhere. You cannot learn that in this industry. You have to learn through people who are better than you at certain things.
But just looking at your success, like, the Green Heart, Aura, obviously, CNSEquityPartners, how do you not think big? You are thinking big. The companies are,
I mean, like not because of them. But you got to remember, I came into this industry, I was like, I want to open a dispensary that has holistic health and doesn't accept cash.
Right.
That's all I cared about. I wanted to have hash oil sold for $15 a gram instead of $80 a gram, and I wanted people to have affordable access to the medicine and be educated and taught how to use it in a friendly environment that didn't smell like a weed closet.
Right.
That's all I wanted. I'm a really simple person. That's all I wanted, and then it just kept flowing up into different things and different opportunities. And, now we're producing events and things that I never thought that we'd be doing with our portfolio, but that's really not even me. That's, again, these amazing CEOs and talented people that I've been able to align myself with.
Oh,
somehow they want to work with me. I'm crazy. I'm very difficult to work with. I am. You can ask them. They'll be like, oh, my gosh, she's the worst.
I don't think so at all. But
I'm really demanding. I want a lot.
Well, yeah, we should. I think that's appropriate. I think that's totally appropriate, and I think we should ask for it as well. Like, a lot of people don't even ask for what they need or ask for what they want to get. So yeah, they're not going to get it. But so when you do ask, you should ask for everything you need.
when you're building things that don't exist, and you're like, well, there's nobody doing that, and I'm kind of like, awesome. Mm-hmm. Great, let's go do that. And then they'll find a problem and a problem and a problem, and I'm like, perfect, another opportunity to be better. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that I think I love about our team and what our firm is doing. And there's a lot of great people in this space, and I think there's a lot of great money managers and asset managers too. So we're not the only ones for sure, but I think that our team is I think some of the most dynamic people that I've been able to pull across the cannabis industry for sure.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
What's next for Jennifer Sanders, and what's next for CNS Equity?
I want to microsize and make available to normal investors to have access to this plant and through holistic health. I want virtue-based investment strategies. I want to be on the impact investing platform that the Rockefeller spearheaded. That is going to launch this year, and that's really. Aside from the Green Heart, I have 7 other portfolio companies. The Green Heart is my baby, so you gotta know.
Oh, yeah.
The Aura Venture Funds, I think, is going to be a very big legacy fund for me, and to really give people, my parents or my father, and normal people. My dad was a logger in Oregon. Normal people access to participate affordably in things that they care about. And hopefully drive real return.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I have a couple more questions. They're a bit more personal.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
All right, so what's your favorite book? And if it's the same book that you would give out to other people, that you would gift?
I think The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Mm-hmm. It's so cliche, and I'm sorry to say that, because I know it's like on Oprah's Reading Club and all of these things,
It resonated with you.
It's non-denominational. It just focuses on lining your intentions with your inner and outer focus. I think that a lot of people forget to just stop and be. And last year I did a five-day silent meditational retreat. No reading, no writing, no music.
No internet?
Nothing. Frolicking in the woods practically.
No internet.
And it was the most transformational thing that I've ever done. My next one is a 21-day in Siberia, which sounds crazy. But I think that we forget that we actually have the power internally to really change things. And the more purified internally we are with our intentions and our focus, and making sure that the things that we want, we don't get in our own way. And the things that we want, we align all of our efforts to do that. Otherwise, there's no purpose. You know, and that goes even into relationships, saying, you know, I want a really wonderful, loving marriage, but then you're constantly looking at these nitpicky things that you just harbor on, when you have so many things that are wonderful, and you can be in a great state of peace and appreciation without the external factors. I think that book is wonderful. He just released a recent book too about, you know, your passions and intentions, A New Earth, I think it's called. So I just think that I don't read a lot of fiction. I don't have a lot of time for fiction. I've got a lot of real shit going on, right?
Amen. Yeah.
I just need to untangle myself repeatedly and to get to a place of peace and balance as much as I possibly can. So that's why I would recommend that book.
That's a great book, and yeah, it's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason, because it's really it's a really good piece of advice. There's a lot of good pieces of advice in the book, but so besides the path that you were on, like, what was the struggle that put you onto the finance? Was there a struggle that put you towards finance, or was it something that you were like I need to do this because I understand money and I understand math and this all makes sense to me? Did you come from math?
I wish I could say that there's this awesome story. I think getting into the cannabis industry was a really fun story and very adventurous, but I literally said, I think I'm old enough to maybe do something. I never thought, you know, I built a book of business up to about 10 million when I was 20 years old, which is really phenomenal, actually.
Yes.
By door knocking.
Wow.
So the Edward Jones philosophy is you go door to door in your community, you knock on people's doors and ask them if they're happy with the way that their investments are being managed. Who on earth would give you $1 doing that? I have no clue, especially because I was in Las Vegas, Nevada. This 20-year-old, like, you know, blonde-headed girl, I have no clue, but they did. And many of those clients now have become our portfolio clients. And
that's amazing. That's really fantastic.
Yes, but no, I just applied. I applied online, and I got the job, and they trained me, and then I went into, you know, higher net worth management for a bank, and then I went to run RIA, which is, you know, a registered investment advisor, and then I went into a broker-dealer RIA that was international, and then I just kept doing little jumps, like little things like, oh, maybe I can do that, and I would apply. Every time I applied for a job, I'm going to tell you, I didn't know how to do that job. And I told them, I'm like, look, I'm a very fast learner. No, I've never managed a whole compliance program for an international investment firm, but I am an excellent reader.
And I will get it done. Yes.
And I'll try really hard. And I'll get whatever certification, test thing you want me to take. I'm great at taking tests. Give it to me. And, you know, I would just kept getting these amazing opportunities.
Yeah, Charles Brunson said, the founder of Virgin, said, you know, if you're being offered a job that you don't know how to do 100%, say yes. And, you know, figure it out. You know, basically, you know. So I'm 100% behind that. You know, like, there's no reason to take a job that you know how to do already, because you're already doing that. Yes. And you should not. You know, you shouldn't. It'll be boring, and like, what are you going to do? So somebody offers you a little bit more money. That is not enough for me. You know, like, that is not good enough reason to do everything. You go somewhere where you can actually learn, where you can, you know, get better and, you know, be better at what you do, be, you know, a more rounded professional. So, yeah, I mean, I'm 100% behind what you said. Like, absolutely. there's no reason to take a job that, you don't, you know how to do 100%, but there's lots of reasons to take a job that you know how to do, I don't know, 50%, 60%, you know? So you have enough time to grow. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm so glad you were going a little bit at a time, but you were learning and you were growing and,
and I certainly did not come to the cannabis industry for money. I don't take salary. I don't take any income from the businesses whatsoever or the portfolio. I live off real estate income. My goal is a 4-year exit for certain companies like the Green Heart. I would like to sell it in 4 years because I want to run a nonprofit. So, yeah.
Nonprofit in the cannabis?
In holistic health. Basically, my goal is to expose children to not only mindfulness and, internal thought practices and build their EQ, but to show them that not only do you not need to continually fight being sick, you can live a lifestyle of wellness and alternative health and holistic health to remain well and happy. So let's just kind of teach them really, really young how to do that so they're just more vibrant, wonderful adults that don't have to rely so much on Western medicine. And I'm not against Western medicine. I'm against something that is a bad cyclical crutch.
And that's a beautiful drive and a beautiful mission that you have for the nonprofit. And I look forward to seeing that. But in the meantime, I'm hoping to see the Green Heart expand, nationwide.
Everywhere.
So, yes, exactly. So one final question, because I have to let you go. If you're putting up a billboard, what would you put on the billboard? What message would you put on the billboard? And where would you put this billboard?
I think the most effective place to put a billboard in America is one, just New York City, Times Square, just because it has international exposure. But let's forget the marketing reach for a moment and let's look at impact. So I'm going to turn off my marketing mind and just go into like real situations. I'd really like to put in Hawaii, where they have the highest rate of cardiovascular disease, the highest rate of cancer per capita. If you take a look at the percentages of the unhealthiest Americans and overweight Americans in the United States, by percentage, it's actually Hawaii. If you can believe that.
No, it's scary. I mean, I trust the numbers, but it's like it doesn't sound real.
It's insane. It's insane. Very small population density, very high percentage of, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, children obesity, very, very young. So I would say I'd put something in Hawaii that said, gosh, you're putting me on the spot here, but it would be something like, get back to your roots. You have a culture that was, an indigenous population that was very vibrant and plant, holistic health-based, deep spirituality, deep love for nature, overarching a community that has so much love and compassion for others. I think the westernization of that particular state in the United States has been devastating to that community, and I think just kind of getting them back to remembering who they are, maybe just like remember who you are and where you came from, something to that effect, and maybe a nice, couple leaves and things like that, not necessarily cannabis leaves, but yeah. I just think that reminding people of their loveliness and their heritage is really important.
That's a great message, and it's always good to not necessarily just go back to your roots, but go back to how we should be, in touch with nature, and not necessarily go back to your culture and your whatever. Go back to feeling in touch with everything around you, and because we're part of everything around you, so we've been cutting ourselves off so much and so drastically that we've forgotten. I mean, now we need woods therapy. Now we need, so, like now we actually need those things and they need to be prescribed. I mean, what? Like seriously, you can't go for a walk. You can't, I mean, it's not really that difficult bringing yourself back into balance with nature and with everything around you. It's really not that difficult. And like you were talking about earlier about detangling, I feel tangled, I just need to detangle. That's super important as well. It's like, yes, kind of breathe through what's happening, just kind of see what's happening and just kind of go with what's natural, start listening to what's happening with you and with everything around. So great message. And honestly, I would take your message and I would put it everywhere in the country because I think everybody
I'm sure
needs
we
to see
could craft that. I mean, if I gave that to the Aura team, I'm sure they'd make it a lot more, nice sounding and a better place.
Don't worry about that.
I just look at like the principles of metta and think, first start with getting to a good place where you love yourself. Then love the people that you love really well. Then love the people that you like really well. And then love the people you don't know really well. And then love the people you don't like. And then love the people that you're afraid of. And then love the people you hate at that moment. Love all. And if you can get to that place, your life is way easier. It's kind of a magical thing, but it's the hardest thing.
Forget
about the professional goals and forget about the money. Is like, are you at a good place? Mentally, are you a bright shining light in this world, or are you not?
Correct. So, Jennifer, how can our audience get in touch with you? How can they learn more about what you're doing and get involved with the companies that you're supporting?
So I think the CNSEquityPartners website is a great place to start. It's a really, really simple website. It's really just reach out. I have a wonderful, wonderful assistant, Madison, and she responds to every single person and gets people funneled to me appropriately during what is usually a very, very hectic schedule, but I really enjoy talking to people, meeting people one-to-one. I love speaking. I love public speaking so much because I really just want to get this message out there. And I think, too, with the Green Heart opening cannabis, holistic health stores and non-cannabis holistic health stores, which is kind of a secret thing we're doing this year.
Nice.
I think just reach out. Like, I'm very approachable, and I have my own Facebook page, Jennifer M. Sanders. It's a public-facing page. I'm on LinkedIn. I accept everybody's LinkedIn request. I try to respond to everybody as much as I can, and I'm a normal person. I really am just a normal person, so, reach out.
Awesome. Everybody will have all of Jennifer Sanders' contact information that it's appropriate for us to have at the bottom of the podcast. So fret none. Just as you're listening to this, you're going to be able to actually see it at the bottom of the podcast. And that's all for us. I want to say a huge thank you to Jennifer for joining us today and talking about such important factors, finance and cannabis, women in finance and women in life and lots of love and vibrating at a proper frequency with the universe around us, because
I never knew how to say things because you never know your audience, but yeah.
I think that people who have been listening to us up to this point, they know that we can talk about pretty much anything, so we're good. And there's a lot of swear words in there sometimes, so that works too.
I try to keep out all the woo-woo because I don't want it to compromise the professional message of investing, but I think it's mind, body, spirit. Like, your intentions have to be aligned when you do anything, whether it's buying food, investing, your professional career. I think it all matters.
100% agree. And that's why I think women are a bit more in touch with that. So, we're a little bit more on the, front part of we're going to invest with, I need to look at the numbers. I want to see how the company treats their employees. And do I feel good about, I'm pointing at my belly. Do I feel good about, this company? What's my gut feeling? So if you're talking about the 3 points, you're good, and let them align and just, you're good to go. Investing and partnering up with, with a partner, making, hiring decisions. I don't know, on everything, if we are aligned, it's so much easier to make decisions, on pretty much anything. So, this is a great message. Why would you not want to give that message to us?
It's a great message. So thank you again. Thank you so very much for doing this with us today. I greatly appreciate it. And I want to say hello and actually goodbye to everybody. Thanks for joining everybody else joining us in. And again, this is Monica with the businessmagazineforeman.com. We'll have all of the information at the bottom of the podcast, but make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and make sure to stay up to date on what's going on and all the articles that amazing, women like Jennifer, we're talking about, and obviously buy the magazine. So we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Monica.
World, top of the pop the lid off.
Hey, everybody, and thank you again for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot. Just to remind you that for a price of coffee, you can now hear your name on our podcast. So go to patreon.com/Wonder Woman Podcast and make your pledge. The music for our podcast is graciously provided by our most awesome Wonder Woman, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. To get your free download, go to cbemusic.com. That is cbemusic.com. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.